Okay, welcome back to the Crazy Courage Business Stories podcast. I have another guest here. Her name is Susan Blain from the Dare to Be Vulnerable project. So, welcome to the podcast, Susan. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. So, Susan, her Dare to Be Vulnerable project, it really deals head on with the issue of mental health. It's one of those problems that's been around for a lot longer than I think we care to admit. But I think we're now at a point where we can finally talk about these kind of things openly and be vulnerable, and it's okay. And I think that's the thing. Susan, please tell me more about this Dare to Be Vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, your comment about that it's been around for a long time. I think it's been around since humans have been around. One of the biggest messages for the Dare to Be Vulnerable project is that we all have a mental health. It's not something that you, Nick, are dealing with, or your mother's dealing with, or your brother. It's not something else. We all have a mental health, like we have a gut health, a heart health, a brain health, right? A physical health. We have a mental health. So the question is, where are you on the spectrum at any given day? You can be in crisis, such as the red zone or the green zone. We're not always in the green zone. Life fires some stuff at you. Life gets heavy. Things get stacked. It has an impact on your mental health. Then there's mental illness, right? I was diagnosed with a mental illness, anxiety disorder, depression, and mild PTSD. Some of my best friends live with bipolar disorder. They're some of the most brilliant people I've ever met. Winston Churchill was bipolar. I mean, I could tell you many brilliant people. It's a superpower. It's really about, the tough stuff, the crunchy stuff that we have in life that we have to deal with that have an impact on our mental health, and sometimes they take us down. We just have to be aware that we have a mental health. And what are we doing? Like, you look like a fit guy, Nick, and I'm sure you do stuff that are good for your physical health, right?
Yeah.
You exercise, you probably eat well, as most of the time. Well, what are we doing for our mental health, right?
Probably not enough, right?
Do we even think about that?
No,
we don't. So this is mental health time, okay?
Yeah.
It's been going on forever. I think COVID turned up the dial because it blanketed the world with fear and isolation and uncertainty, and that had a negative impact on our mental health, period.
Oh, no question.
Right? And it's like, that's the tsunami. And there's, unfortunately, this ripple effect that's still going on, and it's not getting better. So that's why we have to take, personal responsibility for each of us. Since I started this work, and I know we're going to get into the backstory, but since I started this work, everything is filtered through my mental health now. I fiercely protect it. I filter it through. What I mean by that is, if I'm debating something and I'm thinking about making a decision, I filter it through, is this good for my mental health?
Right. And I think that's a big thing, right? I think that the one thing that I've heard is it's okay to not be okay. So it's okay to filter those things through your mental health, to give it that sort of spotlight and think about it and say, look, tell your friend, I can't go out tonight, my social battery's drained. Something simple like that. Instead of just suffering along, you don't have to suffer along anymore, right?
Pushing yourself is not pushing yourself,
right? Like, how many people are doing that in their work or whatever they're doing for a living, right? Yeah, lots. Right? Exactly. Right. And I think it's okay to say, hey, listen, I need a mental health day, or I need some time I need to step back. When people can consciously do it, but they can also tell their family and friends, say, hey, look, I'm not okay today. I just need to do this for myself or whatever. And yeah, we're at that time. And what you said about
that time.
Yeah, and what you said about COVID, I think really, I think it brought mental health issues to the forefront. Like, we've talked about mental health and stuff, but I think now,
sure, what's still unfortunately very alive and well is stigma and discrimination and shame, and that's what we need to change. And we're talking about systemic change, and that's kind of the lane that the Dare to Be Vulnerable project is in from a business perspective, and it's taken me a while to kind of figure out what is my lane, because you can't be everything. And it's really about mental health awareness, the awareness that I just kind of talked about, that
Yeah.
most of us don't have. We're just
Right.
not thinking about our mental health. We're not filtering things through our mental health. If we had the same awareness for our mental health as we did for our physical health, it would be a better world.
Right. Okay, so what exactly does the Dare to Be Vulnerable project do? What's it all about?
Yeah, well, we're a social enterprise, and I'm just learning. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm just learning
Okay.
because this is my first foray into entrepreneurship. Okay, so I mean, I did network marketing. I played with network marketing over the years, but this is this is not that.
You're on your own, right? This is
Yeah,
it.
this is a whole different thing, and we're talking about a real business, but it's a social enterprise, which kind of puts a different twist on it, meaning that everything that we do is focused on social impact,
Right.
social change, right? And we have 4 products that have kind of evolved and now have presented themselves as I call them our social impact activities
Okay.
that we do. So we do events. I just finished up my 10th event. We started the
Good.
events in 2023, and it started just by being invited to participate in a larger event that was on Bell Let's Talk Day,
Yeah.
January
Okay. Yeah.
23. And I was asked to do, a bit of programming. Can you come and talk about the Dare to Be Vulnerable project? And so I did, and that snowballed. And now I've done 10 events, independent events, and I've built a program, a 2-hour program that will blow you away.
All right.
Yeah, it's an experiential thing. And I know you're going to come out in October for our Courageous Conversations with Entrepreneurs.
Yes. Yes.
We just finished one, Courageous Conversations with CEOs.
CEOs.
And I just
Hey.
focused on men. So I focused a little bit more on men. And I did one last year in June because it's Men's Mental Health Month, June.
Okay.
And so I had 4 CEOs on stage with me. I had one that our board chair, who's a CEO, open the event. We all dared to be vulnerable. And then I had 4 guys step up to the mic and do the same thing. And everybody was sharing about their mental health stories.
What? So male CEOs, I would figure that's a tough nut to crack in terms of getting those guys to talk about mental health.
I think it's difficult for anybody to
Right.
talk about it. I think that's why it takes courage, and that's why I call it Project Dare to Be Vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because you have to have courage to be vulnerable. You
Yeah.
can't be vulnerable without courage, and you can't be courageous without being vulnerable. It's like a two sides of the coin. And that there's a power in that is like, somebody said to me, is it a skill to be vulnerable? Are they asking? And I said,
Interesting.
no, because I read this and it became clear to me it's not a skill, it's a choice.
Choice. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Fair.
Right? So it's a choice. So these guys that participated in the event, all 9 of them, because they all dared to be vulnerable, they chose to do that. Now the question is why? Because I asked them. No, because we are choosing, and I'm going to say giving a gift. Okay. We're choosing to share our story, to help break silence,
Yes.
to help people, to demonstrate that it's totally okay. And that people that you hold, and I approach leaders because I believe in going from the top down, and I want this ripple effect to happen, especially in the workplace, because there's so much, unfortunately, discrimination and shame,
stigma in general. Right?
Yeah,
Right.
in the workplace, right? These leaders that are just basically being human. And what I love about this, Nick, and I worked at the Ottawa Business Journal for years, for most of my career. I left in 2015, and I did a lot of events, a lot of business events, a lot of great events. And I say this with love. There was a lot of ego.
I'll bet.
Lots of ego in the rooms. Like, you get cut through it, right?
That's funny.
Dare to be vulnerable events? Or opposite of that.
Right. It would have to be. Yeah, for sure.
Think about experiencing that, because you've got business people attending, you got business people coming out, you got business people participating, right? It's just something, and I didn't anticipate that. It kind of organically happened. So now after 10 events, I've tweaked, and I've got this great 2-hour program that's just very powerful. So events that's one of our products.
Right.
or activities. And so I'm looking for, we do our signature events, and how those are supported is through sponsorship.
Right.
So we generate revenue by sponsorship. Okay. And support, general support. We also have some swag. We get some donations. So we bring in some revenue there. And then communities can hire Dare to Be Vulnerable to, like an organization like Carleton University. We're doing one in October, hiring Dare to Be Vulnerable to do the programming. So I go in there and I do, we work together, identify 4 panelists, some open mic people who want to share, and then I put together a whole program. And there's a fee for that.
Okay.
It comes directly to the organization. So that's one product. And that's sponsorship, and then hiring us. And then there are digital stories. That's kind of a product that we put out there, and we look for sponsorships to, just like what you're doing here.
Right.
The conversation is all around their mental health, courageous conversations around mental health, and lived experience, and how you navigate it through, and that it's okay to be okay and not to not be okay. Right.
Yeah.
So I capture those digitally, and we look for sponsors to sponsor one or several or a series. So I'm in talks with a few companies to look at creating some with them. So that's another product. And then product 3 and product 4 are specifically sort of workplace. So,
Okay.
1 hour sessions, Dare to Be Vulnerable sessions. I call it a lunch and learn. It can be a snack and learn.
Makes sense. Yeah.
If you bring some food, people will come.
Yeah.
An hour
Definitely.
session, and then a more sort of a deeper dive into that in a 2.5 hour session.
Okay.
So those are the 4 products that we as a social impact or a social enterprise provide a community,
Which
and
is
in exchange for
that's great. That's a lot of awareness getting out there for sure.
yeah. And what I love about it is it's not like in my previous gig, I was responsible for revenue. I was a revenue catalyst. Revenue was my job, and it was very transactional.
Okay.
Very transactional. This is not that, because you may want to sponsor your, CEO of XYZ company. You want to sponsor like Calian, for example. They are supporting a group of events, our events all year. They've supported our community events all year, which allows us to have them for free. We're looking for more support, but
Sure.
it's one of our supporters. But not only that, they're also bringing us in to do the lunch and learns, the workshops. We're looking at creating those digital stories with some of their management team.
Wow, fantastic.
Okay. So it's not just about throwing money at Dare to Be Vulnerable. We'll take your money. Thank you very much. But we want you to help us create change.
Yeah.
We want you to be part of the social move, that social impact, that, making a difference. It can only work that way. I can't do it all myself. It'll take, a community, it'll take an army really to affect systemic change. So it's companies that are embracing the work and not just putting money into their EAP. Okay?
Right.
Which a lot of companies are, which are great resources.
Sure.
For their employees that are struggling. But I have an interesting story about how that's just not enough.
I don't feel it would be, but I want to hear the story.
This is just recently I figured out the lane that we're in.
Okay.
And it's all these sort of bits and pieces that have organically presented themselves. And that's what I love about this, because I don't have to freaking figure it out all on my own. It's like the community is demonstrating or asking for what they want. So this young man, Jordan, came up to me. I was attending a social enterprise event in February. I was putting my coat on. It was a half day. I was leaving. This guy comes up to me. He says, "Susan, my name's Jordan. I just want to tell you I attended the event in December, the Tech Tuesday, had you guys come," and he said there was 300 people. This blew my mind. I don't think they knew what they were coming for, that the Dare to Be Vulnerable presentation was happening, but so you could have heard a pin drop in the room. Anyway, Jordan was there. He was one of the 300 that attended. And then in February, so 3 months later, in February, I kind of bumped into him. And he introduced himself, and he says, "It changed my life. He says, I just
Wow.
want to tell you that event changed my life. So I was like, wow, that pattern interrupted me. I said, tell me about that, Jordan. He says, yeah, I've been struggling with my mental health for a couple of years. He's a young man, early 30s, ginger, and a gay man. And he said, I've been struggling. He says, as you say, in silence. He says, it wasn't until I went to your event and I watched the leaders. And I had Kevin Ford, Susan Richards, and Rudy Asir, very recognized leaders, sharing. And I was talking about my story too. And he said, he says, and I had a one pager and I had a bunch of practitioners on there. He said, I reached out to one of the therapists. I booked an appointment. I had several sessions and it's changed my life. And I was having a bad week. It's so funny how life works. I was having a bad week and I'm, leaving this conference feeling okay that this guy tells me that, this work has changed his life.
Wow. That's
Okay.
huge.
It's huge, 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 huge. And there's been more people like that, but he has taught me so much because it goes on. So I said to him, so we connected by email later. And I said, listen, are you be interested in stepping up to the mic at my March event? And he hesitated, but he said, yes, I feel I should. I feel I need to, right? He was scared. His voice was shaking when he stood up to the mic. But I can tell you that the ripple effect that he had on sharing was amazing.
Wow.
So he did it. Yeah,
wow.
he did.
Good for him. Good for him.
Good for him. And the ripple effect has been only positive for him. He's like, I can't believe this. I'm so glad I showed up at that event in December because it goes on. So I asked him because he works for the third largest insurance company in the country.
Wow.
So I asked him, I say, in an email, I said, Jordan, so what is your company's position on mental health? So he sends me back this email. There's like 6 bullets. He goes, actually, I'm super impressed. And they have all these things. And I said, wow, that is impressive. Isn't it interesting, though, that they had that for a couple of years and you were struggling and you never pulled the trigger on any of that? Okay. What does that say? It tells me that until the awareness piece happens, nobody's going to take action.
Yeah.
So you can be a company that has all the resources and, and he had $2,000 a year just for therapy, but he wasn't pulling the trigger because he didn't have that awareness piece for himself. So he comes to an event, he sees others sharing, right? He's inspired. He's like, shit, if they can say it, if they can talk about it, well, I can talk and I need to take action. And sure enough, he did. And, here we are. So through that one person as an entrepreneur.
It spreads, like you said, right? It spreads and it's like a fire, right? Whereas I think what you're saying is the resources that are in the workplace that many corporations have, I'm sure are well-meaning and well-intended, but at the same time, you have to make a choice. But then you're going through it. I feel like you're going through it alone, right? You're tapping into these resources. Sure, there's therapy or whatever. And I'm not against therapy, of course.
Therapy is a great life hack.
Absolutely. But I feel like there's a lot to be said to sharing in a large group environment and being vulnerable. And look, I'm not saying everyone can do that, but even being in the room, I feel
it's just being in the room. You're not asked to be vulnerable. People have volunteered to do that.
Right. Exactly. And I think there's such a, you're talking about removing stigma and because when you're going through it alone, you're like, well, okay, I'm tapping into these resources at work, but I don't want my coworkers to know that I need these resources,
Nick.
right?
Bingo. That's exactly why people don't pull the trigger.
Right.
Because they feel, even though everybody says it's anonymous,
yeah,
they know if you clicked.
All of a sudden, who knows what gets
you click,
right? Yeah.
They know. So you nailed it. That's exactly why it's not happening. So that's why this work is really important. And I'm so excited because when I started, I had no idea that it would snowball into this. And it's like stories like Jordan and just the feedback, the validation, what people are connecting with. Like Sherry said to me, Carrie Irvin, our friend, said to me, she said, you've hit a nerve, Susan, with this work. Right. So that is just like, I get excited right now on a Saturday morning talking to you in the belly. You talk about entrepreneurship in the belly.
Yeah.
that I just know that this is our lane. This is what I'm meant to do, and I'm just going to keep driving the bus.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that's great. So this is what you're meant to do. So I want to talk about how far back do we have to go that led you to this point of you knew that this is what you're meant to do? Like how far back do you have to go to realize you wanted to be an entrepreneur or that you wanted to do something with mental health?
Okay, not too far back.
Not too far back.
But I think I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur because I've
Yeah.
always worked with entrepreneurs or around entrepreneurs, like being at the Auto Business
Auto Business
Journal.
Journal, right?
And my favorite part of the job, I was in management for the last 10 years of my job. My favorite part was when they did the 40 under 40 awards
Okay.
every year. Okay. You know that award program?
Yeah.
So I got to take 10 days out of the office to go. We all set up at Rogers and we filtered the 40 recipients through photographs, interviews with the journalists. And then I got to do the fun part, like what drives you, what keeps you up at night,
Right.
the stuff you love, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Behind the curtain, right?
Yeah.
And so I've always been, wouldn't that be great to be an entrepreneur? But I never knew, I wasn't passionate about anything like they were, so, and it wasn't until this, but I've always enjoyed, like you, I'm a curious human being. So I've always enjoyed understanding people behind the mask.
Yeah. Humanizing our entrepreneurs and our leaders.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're all the same, man. We're all the same. So I love that too. And so I've always had a passion for that. And wouldn't it be great to do something around that? But it was mental health was something that became it when I went through a mental health crisis when I was in the red zone.
Okay.
It happened in 2000. If I look back, though, I can see in each decade where I really struggled. But we talk about traumas, big trauma, little trauma. We've all had trauma. If you were slapped as a child, that's trauma.
Things that stick out for sure.
Right? So, but I had a big trauma in 2019. And I'm mid 50s. I'm just going in my, 54 years old. 2019, my world imploded. Through an act of betrayal, I lost everything. My home, my savings. I was homeless for 20 months. It ended up being in the pandemic. I had no money because I had left my gig. I spent my savings. Betrayal is a jagged pill to swallow, so that was very painful. And I went right into this red zone, and I was in the red zone for a while, and I wanted to exit.
Now, can we define the red zone? Well, what does that look like for people?
Well, I had anxiety disorder. I burnt my adrenals. My nervous system was revved up for so long. So I was physically, although I didn't get sick, ironically, but I was mentally in a very dark place. Worry times 1,000.
Okay.
That's what anxiety feels like, crossed down my chest. And just didn't know I was, fetal position on the floor, bawling. I was just a mess.
Wow.
And I was losing hope. I moved 5 times in 20 months. My best friend and her husband took me and my dog in. They were the first people I stayed with. And then I was in litigation trying to fight for, what things I had lost. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. It's really the one with the most money that wins in those things. It just took me down, Nick. I mean, I was financially decimated. I had nothing. I had to rely on the kindness of others, which in itself was difficult. Talk about being vulnerable.
Right.
But it was because, and I wanted to exit. I wanted to take out.
And that's what it like when you really hit, the end of that red zone. That's the bottom.
That's the bottom. That's it.
That's scary.
So I know what the bottom looks like, and I know what the bottom feels like. And I had the courage to share that with my best friend at the time, Judy, to tell her what was going on in here instead of staying silent. So I had the courage. It's huge. And that's why you're coming to how this began.
Right. It's tough to turn a corner without sharing with you, just dealing with it in your head.
And she was a safe place. She was a safe place. She's somebody also who's very knowledgeable around mental health. She lives with bipolar disorder herself. So, so I shared. And she said something so profound to me that just changed the trajectory. It just, began my healing journey, as I like to say. She just said, Susan, you need more help than I can give you, and you need to be hospitalized. Well, that was difficult to hear, but it landed, Nick, where it needed to land.
Okay.
And the next day she walked me into the Cleveland Carleton Hospital. This was March, check it out, March 11th, 2020, 2 days before COVID struck.
Wow, you're right.
And so they assessed me quickly. I was in there for a couple of weeks in the mental health unit. And when I came out, the world was a different place. Masks, fear.
That's...
my friends didn't want to take me back. And then I moved like 4 more times before I finally... There's 2 levels of homelessness, because I say I was homeless, and I like to clarify this because there is 2 levels. One is living on the street, or in a shelter, right, or under a bridge, right, or in these tent camps. And then there is couch surfing.
Okay.
Not knowing, where you're going to be, or if you can, and that was me for 20 months, me and my dog.
Wow.
And no money.
Now, can I ask you, the time that you spent at the Queensway Carleton, you said you were there for a couple of weeks, right? Were those services adequate for you? Like, did they help you? Did you get help? Or was it...
Well, I was medicated for a while. I didn't feel that great. And it was before the renovations, because I haven't seen a new Queensway Carleton, but it felt like, what a hospital feels like. Nobody wants to be in a hospital, right?
No.
And there were some people that were really struggling there. So it was an awakening. Let's just put it that way. And it was an experience. I had a psychiatrist, Dr. Kathy Kovacs. She said some profound things to me that had an impact, It's like when the student's ready.
Right.
Appears, and you hear what somebody says. So we had several sessions while I was in there. But you have to remember that when COVID happened, nobody knew what they were doing. Programs were shutting down. They stopped the group thing. They didn't let people go out for the weekends or come back that had patients or clients that were in there. So when I checked out, normally I would have been part of an outpatient program, and I would have been able to tap into things. I didn't have anything. So I've had to create a playbook for myself, or a toolbox, surrounding myself with people. I'm very fortunate that I have some really smart and people in my social circles that, my best friend is a trauma-informed coach, along with a bunch of other accreditations. And, I had a grief and loss specialist as a good friend who, so I had these people that I leaned on, right? And then, financially, friends helped me. So for the first time in my life, I really had to learn how to lean on others.
That's tough.
But it's necessary. It's necessary to learn that it's like yin yang. It's like the moon and the sun. You have to be both. We are both, and it's unbalanced if we don't. So it's only afterwards, and then you reflect back, and it's having conversations like this, Nick, which I so appreciate, that we as human beings kind of look back and go, oh yeah, okay, that's... But I am here today and doing this work because of all that. And I would do it again. I know it sounds weird, and people say that only because I know how it turns out.
Right. That's the difference.
But because it was hard. It was hard to go through that. And my world literally blew up. And then it was rebuilt. So from the ashes, right?
Right. Phoenix.
The Phoenix, for sure. So I am living that for sure. And so much gratitude for everything. This I did have, by the way. I bought this in 1991, so it came with me.
Travel around.
This JT behind me. but yeah, I had very little, and then it was just my place here. I say it's the home that love built because friends just gave me things, and I was able to put together a home and build this social enterprise. And I've been doing it for 2.5 years, so it's just now sort of gotten legs as I identified the lane, created the activities, and I guess somebody mentioned to me this week, and I didn't think about that because I'm just kind of following the flow of how this is unfolding. But they said, you've already done proof of concept, Susan, which can be difficult sometimes when you're starting stuff, right?
Yes.
But I've already looked at Jordan, that proof of concept.
Right. Exactly. Any of those testimonials, right, prove that what you're doing. But I expect that it not only does it prove your concept, but it gives you more drive to keep
Fuel,
going,
baby.
right? The fuel, exactly.
It does.
Right.
It fuels me. So there's all that beautiful thing because you need that. I'm a solopreneur.
Right.
I have a couple of volunteers that help with a few things, but everything else I'm doing. And that's the other challenge is I want to scale, but I can only scale as I'm able.
Yes.
I personally cannot give more than I'm giving. So I need to build a team and you need revenue for that. So
yes. Always. There's always that balance. It's
that's
a tough
business.
balance. Yeah, it's business.
No different.
Yeah.
Than any other business in that net.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I feel like solopreneurs, I think probably have, well, it's tough. I want to say they have it more difficult than anybody else, but I want to say it's difficult in the sense that they probably feel like they're on their own more than, other people.
Just the word solo.
Yeah. They don't have a team. They don't have, they need a good peer group or people that they can speak to about things and bounce ideas off of.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're on your own in that silo, that can be tricky. And then that's, again, the thoughts in your head that just keep
not good for your mental health.
Right? Just a spiral, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs, like you and I know you and I kind of, when we connected, it was, looking at mental health from the entrepreneurial lens. And there are more stressors, let's just call them that. And stressors have an impact on our mental health, period.
Yeah.
So there's more stressors as a solopreneur or as an entrepreneur just in general. There are more stressors than if you have a regular job. Not that at a regular job there isn't stressors, because I had a ton of them too.
Yes, absolutely. No, of course. Yes.
It's just different and there's more pressure. And if you're living survival, obviously I have a sensitivity around money because I was homeless and penniless, so I don't want to be that again.
No.
And so it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, yes.
Right? Fundamentally, I need to feel secure and safe.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, you are responsible for that.
That's right. Right. The security it's tough to get that security when you're an entrepreneur and solo entrepreneur. If you're a solo entrepreneur, you get hit by a bus tomorrow. What happens, right?
Not that won't.
There's no backup plan. Really?
I don't think I haven't thought about that.
Right. I'm just saying, like, obviously, I don't wish that on anyone, of course. I'm just saying, like, it's tough because anything can happen, and it if you're still working to build up a team, there's no backup yet.
There's no backup. That's a good way to put it. There's no backup.
Yeah.
So it's very risky, and it's not for the weary, man.
No, that's right.
It's not for the weary. You've been an entrepreneur.
Yes, I've been. Yes. And it's like you said, no matter where you're working, no matter what you're doing, employee, employer, whatever, there are stressors, absolutely. But as an entrepreneur, certainly as a solo entrepreneur, there's also the risk as well as the stressors from the work that you're doing. And it's different.
It's higher. The risk is high.
The risk is high for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Which is scary. It can be. Yeah.
It did have an impact on their mental health. So there has been so many times that I'm like, I'm trying to manage my mental health and I'm a solo entrepreneur. Are you friggin' crazy right now?
Right.
Like, that's what destiny has dished up for me. And you know what? It's people like Jordan and all of that validation that's happening after 2.5 years, and then having this this program, this model of mental health awareness that is getting that is having an impact, man. It's having an impact and it's changing people's lives. So I could only keep going. And just recently, and I was asked this on a podcast the other day, when I felt like this had traction, and I think you asked me something like, when did you feel this kind of, when did you know?
When did you know, right?
When did you know that it was, that you're, on track? Because there's so much doubt when you're starting.
Day one, absolutely, right?
There's so much doubt, like I've had 350 conversations, Google chats with people just sharing about the project. I had people that donated money the first year just to give me some traction, so, and a lot of people that just, ghosted me, right? Because you're asking for, hey, you got some bucks to throw this way. So a lot of doubt, like, hey, am I doing the right thing? And hey, is this even making a difference? Until it did, and that was just sort of recently this year, that this traction and that this ripple effect, and I'm calling it the Dare to Be Vulnerable ripple effect, acronym DTBV, ripple effect. Right? Seriously, because it's true. It's what's happening. It's just, it's bigger than me. It's not about me. And people around me, and I've got great people around me. I've got a great board. I've got some cool volunteers and this beautiful community of people that just keep coming back to the events and spreading the word. So I'm not in this by myself.
No, that's awesome.
In the bigger picture.
Not anymore, right? But you were, and that's the thing. Now you're like, now you're validated. The thing's spreading. You're like, look, this is my passion. I know I'm doing the right thing. But
now I know,
when you're conceiving that idea, it's not that simple, right? You're like, this is crazy. No one's gonna go for it. There's certainly doubts, but then you're like, no, this is needed. We got to do it. If I can only get a couple people to listen to me, it will get traction.
A couple of bucks.
Yeah, it's just but
yeah, I mean, that's still going on to some degree.
Of course. Yeah.
But your point is, and here's the other thing, because I know one of the questions you were wondering about as an entrepreneur was about, any, insights or tips. And I'm just a new entrepreneur, so I certainly don't have all the answers. But for me, what I realized is that you have to let something kind of evolve organically. We all have an idea. It starts with an idea, but be open, man, to it evolving and it on its own. Don't be so stubborn to say it's got to be this, because I was like that a bit at the beginning, and then it just kind of, and now it's only going to get bigger. It's only going to grow, and I'm going global.
Wow, nice.
So that from where I started to now, and the reason for that is because I allowed it. I let it breathe. Right. And it's kind of reveal itself instead of me pushing and making it happen. Right. It's kind of evolved. And I think that's really important, because sometimes things just don't look exactly like you think they're going to look, but they're still great.
Yes. And like you said, it took a while, but you found your lane, right? You were listening to the market, the community. Or the community, exactly
what people want.
Yeah.
Instead of what I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ultimately, it's the same thing. It's just the car you're in looks different than the car you started in, or
right.
I like this analogy. People say, and it's great. I will take the acknowledgement. I will take because it validates me, and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to do good. And to hear that feedback, it's important. But it's not about me. And the analogy I use is that it's about the movement. Because you said it when you started out, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's been going on for a while, but it's time. We all feel that.
Yes.
We all feel that. So that's a movement. That's not about me. That's like way bigger.
Yeah.
Right? So I call it the bus. Right? The bus. So there's this bus that rolled into town. What a bus. Like, everybody, wow, that's a nice bus. That's a shiny bus. And, people want to get on the bus, and they're watching the bus. And I'm just driving the bus.
Yeah. You're going to need a bigger bus.
You need an army of buses.
An army of buses. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you say you want to go global, and I'm thinking, I can't imagine anything stopping you. You know, like
No,
it
nothing. I don't do nothing stopping the bus,
nothing stopping the
and
bus.
I'll
Yeah.
drive it for as long as I could drive it.
Yeah,
But I'm not going to be the only driver. Like it's going to take a fleet of buses.
it would. Yes, for
Right?
sure, for
So
sure.
and that look at anything that has that we know brand wise, like it isn't one person. And in fact, most of the time we don't even know who the heck started it, right? It's just it's had an impact. And I think that I'm not saying Dare to Be Vulnerable is that necessarily, but this movement
It's a
that Dare
movement.
to Be Vulnerable is part of
Yeah,
is, again, coming back to mental health is getting its day. It's getting its time. And I'm thinking it's going to take at least a decade, Nick, to make any significant impact on how we think about mental health. Because we're talking about systemic change, and that doesn't happen.
systemic change is tough. It really is. But
it will happen.
you think a decade, eh? You think that long? Even after the progress that you've seen just in the past, just this year itself?
Yeah, I do. I really do. Because we're talking, it's generational.
It's generational. You're right. It's generational.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens sooner, great, but I don't think so. I mean, look at this. Look at the shape the world's in.
I know. I want it to be good now. You know.
I know. Me
I want things
too.
to be so much fun. I thought, all right, fine. We'll deal with COVID. Once COVID's done, we can go back to normal, right? But that didn't happen. The world changed.
No,
You can't go back.
So
right?
we're combating that a bit, So that's why I think it's, and it's going to take an army. It's going to take a lot of people doing a little bit, and that takes time to get people on board because there's so much noise. There's so much going on.
Yes.
That, to get through that, to cut through that is going to take an army. It ain't going to be Susan Blain. In one bus. No way. So how long does it take to build that kind of movement? I don't know.
No, it takes a while. It takes a while. But it's funny. We talk about COVID and how all the terrible things that happened, but like a lot of good things came out of it. Like I don't wish poor mental health on anybody, but I am glad that now I'll tell you. Look, I don't know that I've had any real struggles with mental health. I consider myself very, very lucky because I know a lot of people that have and
most have. It's just in varying degrees, Nick.
Like around me, like I have anxiety about this and that. I never understood it from knowing it personally myself. But then when COVID happened, I can tell you, I got to understand what anxiety was firsthand. And it gave me a better appreciation because I was able to understand it firsthand. When people say I have anxiety about this, like, great, I understand what you're talking. I can,
because you felt it in your own body.
I felt it, right? And I feel out of COVID, everyone had some degree of feeling anxiety, stress, mental health struggles, fear, doubts, all that stuff, right? We had all that fear, and I think it led to a lot of anxiety. We didn't know what was going on, and even like our government leaders, a lot of people give them a hard time.
They didn't know either. They're human. They're experiencing the same thing.
That's right.
And people are turning to them saying, "Fix it."
Yeah, they're like, "Whoa, when is it going to be fixed? When's it going to be fixed?" And I think they were in a no-win situation. I didn't want to be in their shoes for sure.
Their job,
right?
Can you imagine?
No, they couldn't win no matter what they did. They're like, okay, shut things down. Oh, everything's shut down. Okay, open things back up. Like you can't please everyone. There was no way. It was just people just wanted COVID.
You know what it did? It leveled the playing field. Everybody felt the same thing.
Yes.
Everybody felt fear. Everybody felt uncertainty.
Everybody
felt unsafe.
And look, just a total crazy thing, but what a unique thing that we all were in the same boat, right? all dealing with the same things, right? Just same feelings. And look, I again, varying degrees. I'm not, some people lost their jobs, some people, lost their homes,
lost their life.
Yeah, right, lost their life. So I'm not saying that we all experienced it.
It's not a competition, Nick.
That's right.
Don't even go there. It's not a competition.
Yeah, I wasn't, I'm not trying to belittle anyone's experience in any way. I'm just saying that for once we were all facing the same situation, like it globally. Right? Like I'd say
mankind, humankind, humans, every human. That's what I love about it. I love that because we can leverage that. We can leverage that for the greater good.
So
And
out
that's
of
what
that,
I believe this
right?
work is doing. The
Yes,
Dare to Be Vulnerable project
exactly.
is
Right?
part of
Like if
that.
you tried to do this 10 years ago, it would, I don't feel you would have had the same try. It would have been a lot slower to gain any traction.
You're at 100%.
Right. But now
100%.
people are like, oh yeah, mental health. No, I get that.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
learned
There's
how
this
to,
openness.
yeah.
There's this openness, which is why I get so friggin' excited. And I want it all. I want to build a huge team today. I want to drive, that fleet of buses across the country today. But I have to always bring myself back. That's the other challenge I find is a lot of entrepreneurs are visionaries,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
I'm always,
Which
I'm
is
way
great.
over. It's like reel
Yes.
it back, Susan.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have a
Reel it
plan to get
back. Come
there.
back
So,
to
right.
today and do the things that you need to do today, right?
Right. Right.
So that could be challenging sometimes, but exciting at the same time, especially once like this 2.5 year mark that I've hit. That now I know, this
The
project
concept.
still. Okay, let's
Right.
be really. Can I be really honest? Like
Of
this
course.
project is not financially support. So I dog walk, dog sit, ate pies, house sit, do whatever I to support myself. I draw a small stipend, and if it's there,
If it's there, which is,
yeah.
that's a nonprofit, right? That's so tough.
Well, it's not. You know what? It's not the only thing about not for profit that is different from for profit is that you don't have to pay taxes as a corporation.
Okay.
We are a federally incorporated not-for-profit social enterprise since January 31st this year.
Nice.
And I decided to do that because you have 4 choices when you are financially structuring a business. You have for-profit, not-for-profit, a co-op, and a charity. So you have 4 choices. So I chose not-for-profit just because I think that this work better fits that, if you will. But what I learned is it's no different than a for-profit. It's no different. You have to demonstrate viability. You have to demonstrate financial viability. You have to support yourself and you have to support your growth. The one good thing is once you've started to do that and you have that on paper, like financial reports and things like that, which I don't have because I haven't been in years as a not-for-profit, then you can start applying for grants and things like that. But you can't rely on them.
No.
You can't rely on them.
Right.
You have to always rely on how you generate revenue. So how's that different than a for-profit? It's not.
Fair.
You just don't have to pay taxes on the revenue, but you have to do all this reporting. So you've got to hire certain, teams to, submit special reports that you need to jump through some hoops in order to get that gift of no tax. But in terms of operations, it's like any other business.
Of course, right?
I just, hopefully next year we get some grants. I mean, there's grant funding for all kinds of different things, and I think because we're in a good place of proof of concept, and we've got this is what advisors share with me that there's a lot of things that we've done that is going to help us once we're past that year mark to attract some funding and some grant money that can help us really scale. So I'm excited for next year.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting for sure. So, okay. So you're right now, Ottawa's your playground, right? In terms of getting I say
nation's
playground.
capital.
Nation's capital, right? So what's next? You want to take over the world? What's how do you spread from Ottawa?
Like minions.
You make minions, yeah.
Well, going global. So taking us on the road. I'm maybe going to Halifax beginning in November.
Okay. Nice.
So taking this event tomorrow, programming on the road. And so I'm talking with people in different places. I've talked to a few people in the US. I talked to somebody in Tel Aviv because I'm showing up on people's feeds on LinkedIn. That's my main platform. LinkedIn mental health. So connecting with all these cool people that are doing different things in different parts of the world. There's so much work being done in this space. That's why it was really important for me. I'm grateful. Thank you that my lane is now clear.
Yes.
Because I can say this is what we do. Would this be helpful to you? And I believe that, conferences, like, these associations and different organizations that have these annual conferences.
Yeah.
Well, my belief is that every conference should have a mental health component, right? I mean, it's a human component.
And it should be
So
automatic. It should be
it
like,
should be
okay, we're
automatic.
setting up a conference. We need to have this kind of speaker, this kind of speaker, this kind of speaker. And one of them should be
Yeah.
mental health. Like it should be, and I'd love to see it, you know,
When you come,
yeah,
okay, in October, you'll see what I mean. And there is an opportunity to, because it's a great opener to talk about icebreakers.
right.
Holy crap. Like, there's
After
no
that, you're good.
icebreaker
Yeah.
like vulnerability, man. No icebreaker like it. So that, and then it has this, you use the word humanizing,
Right.
right? It has this humanizing ripple effect. And it's almost like, okay, man, I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to absorb what you're going to share with me because, you know, you just leveled the playing field. You just cracked open Pandora's box and I'm ready.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what the Dare to Be Vulnerable project does. So I'm excited to kind of, you know, take that test, you know, test that out. It's just, here's the thing you say, and we feel like mental health is being talked about a lot. But
Yes.
when I approach somebody to say, hey, you know, come in and do an hour session, and it's not a lot of money, it's $1,500.
Okay.
They are not banging down my door. People like the idea, but when you ask them, it's like, ooh, right? I don't know if I want to do that. You know, I don't want to like, do I have to be vulnerable? Like, ooh, you know, it's very uncomfortable for people. So there's this resistance. That's why I think it's going to take so long because there's still
Okay.
such
It's still resistance. Yeah.
so much
Systemic.
resistance. The
Yeah.
idea sounds great. It's so great, and it's so great that you're vulnerable, man. I admire you. I respect you. You
Right.
are me. But ooh, it's different when
Yeah.
you
It takes a
ask
little bit.
me to
Sure.
do it.
Fair.
That's so there's that. But you're looking for the early adopters, believe it or not.
Yeah.
You're looking for the early
Of course.
adopters, even though you think mental health has more traction, it does not. It has traction to say, yeah, we got this great EAP. We've got all
Yeah.
these resources, and you know, it's going to take a while for me to communicate. I'm gonna have to get louder. Communicate to say that ain't enough.
You're right.
So I appreciate the opportunity to be talking with you today. Hopefully, some people are watching.
Yeah.
You know that this message gets out there more, and that you know, because it's actually just common sense.
It is, and it's so important. So
Yeah, it's
important.
critical.
Critical. Right.
Critical. Yeah.
And I think, you know, the Bell Talk, I think that was, you know, they had really great intention. I think it's a good starting point. They've had some, you know, decent traction on that. And I think most people have heard about it at least. And
yeah, they've done their job well.
Yeah. Yeah, which is great. I think they've really, I know from my perspective, it seems like they were kind of at the forefront of this sort of thing, you know, going back even before the pandemic. But I think it's something that, now really needs to be
more. You need more. Like somebody
more.
say to me, you know, you're a trailblazer. Or something about trailblazing. You just when you're blazing a trail, if you bring people with you, you widen the path, right?
That's right.
So it needs community to buy in.
Yes.
It needs community to take action, not just.
That's what gets the fire going. That's how you spread it.
That's how you spread it. That's how you spread it. Right.
Yeah.
So you and I are spreading it right now. Right.
I love it.
It's more of that over time, consistently over time. You're right, Bell. I think Bell began the movement way back. But now we need a lot of players. We need to recruit this army to keep the movement going and just widen the path. Or, you know, light the flame, just keep, you know, it's like we got to burn down the old school mentality and perspective around mental health and light a new one. And that's the lane I'm in.
And I think it's perfect. I think it sounds to me like you found it. It's one of those things where looking back, you're like, well, yeah, that makes so much sense. Why didn't we always have it, right? Like,
why didn't I figure it out at the beginning? But it wasn't meant to.
You didn't know. No, of course. Yeah. All great things are like that.
If I had any advice for entrepreneurs, it's like be open to how it weaves, because the weaving is actually the way it works. There's no friggin' straight lines. There are none. So just embrace the flow and see what reveals itself, and put your skills and talents to help the flow. And that's kind of what I've done. And I've surrounded myself with people And the biggest thing, because I am fiercely protective of my mental health, because as you said earlier, talk about the bus metaphor, we can get hit by a bus. I don't want to get hit by, I don't want to get hit by the bus.
You want to be on
You
the bus.
know,
I got
I don't want
you.
to be under the bus. So I have to be very mindful, Nick, of my pace,
Right. Right.
right? Like it's, and reminded, because that's the other thing with pressure, you think you have to do, right? All the
Yeah.
time. I'm not working 24/7. I'm not a real entrepreneur, man. Like if I'm not burning the candle at both ends, I'm not good enough.
Right.
That's BS. You can actually get more done with flow rather than push. So that's what I've learned in my whole career. I burned out when I was in corporate, so I know, and I can't afford to burn out here.
You know what it looks like.
So I have to pace, and I've already had a taste of it because I was doing 50-hour weeks, and then the other stuff I had to do to support myself.
Now it's too much.
So I already, during this chapter, this project, I have teetered on the brink. So
Okay.
what is that there to teach me that I cannot ignore, because I'm 59 years old, is that it's not a race.
It's not a race.
Race, man. It's not a race. It's about pace. And it's got to be at a pace that's good for me, because what's good for me is good for the work.
It's a marathon,
Yeah, 100%.
not a sprint. Yeah, it makes sense. You know, you push yourself the whole time, you end up in that red zone like you were talking about.
Yeah, and you're no good to
Not
anybody.
sustainable. No,
It's
no.
not sustainable, and you're going to lose. And you don't want to lose.
Don't want to lose.
So it's about managing that. And you can't avoid all the crunchy stuff. Like I said at my last couple of events, because do you know who Nick Quaid is from Invest Ottawa?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar.
So he posted something on LinkedIn. He's a fantastic guy, super smart, and he makes stuff happen. Anyway, he posted something, and I saw it on the feed. It came on my feed, and it was an interview that was happening for the Harvard graduates, I believe this year or last year, but recent. So on stage with all the grads sitting there, there was, and I don't know people's names, I should. There was an interview being conducted, and this guru of sorts was the guest. And he said in his, words of wisdoms to the grads class of, Harvard grads, privileged graduates,
Yeah.
was that I wish you pain and suffering. They're like, what? I'm like, you're supposed to inspire us.
Right.
And he, of course, goes on to explain what he meant by that. And that in order to be successful, you must suffer. You must know the hardships of struggle.
True.
The word suffer is so intense, but, we know that feeling when we're struggling, right? And that is mandatory in order to succeed.
Right.
You got to break through. And I'm talking to a lot of privileged people here, and many of you haven't even struggled yet. So don't think that just because you graduated from Harvard University that you're going to be successful. It don't mean nothing out there. It's right. And you must understand struggle in order to succeed. And that was his message. And I thought that was brilliant. So I've now been sharing that from the front of the room. So just to say it's okay not to be okay, man. Yeah. It's part of the journey. It's mandatory.
It's so big. It's so big. Okay, not to be okay. Right. And like you said, it's so many entrepreneurs, I think, out there, business owners, they're the face of the business, right? So a lot of people just want to look good and say everything's fine. I'm doing really well. Revenue's up and I got all these projects on the go and I'm doing great. And they don't want to show weakness because they're the face of the company. So because if they show weakness, then the company's weak, right? They don't want to.
It's ironic. It's one of these catch-20. It's BS, man.
Yeah, of course.
Listen, people aren't into that anymore.
It's good.
People want real. Okay? Yeah. We want real. Thanks to COVID, we want more real. Okay? Yeah. And the thing is, and this is interesting that you bring this up because it's true. It's true. Every leader feels that. I need to be strong, man. I need to be infallible.
Right.
right? I need to be seen as that, or people won't follow me. Or, if I show weakness, then man, they're going to think I'm incompetent.
That's
That's the
exactly it.
stigma.
Yes.
Okay. That's it right there. And it's alive and well, Nick. Boy, it's alive and well. Okay. And these people, the leaders, and I'm approaching leaders, right? And this has been part of my experience reaching out to them. Like, I know some people that have struggled, and they say to me, Susan, I can't share that. I can't. Women especially. Yeah. Oh yeah. Women, female leaders, because they work really friggin' hard to
Right.
get,
Fair.
and
Fair.
they feel
Yeah.
that if that is exposed, if they are vulnerable, then they're going to be taken. They're not going to get that promotion. They're not going to get, like, I've got stats on it that will blow you away. But in the workplace, that's why in the workplace, I feel so passionate about doing work there, because it's where the groups gather. It's where it's really, that whole stigma and that fear of I can't be vulnerable from the top down.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't be vulnerable because I'm going to be I'm going to be judged as incompetent. I could lose my job. I won't get that promotion,
Right.
Yada, yada, yada. And that fear is real for them. But here's what I will tell you that I have learned through this work, because I've had close to 40 people share throughout these 10 events I've done. And these are people that have agreed, dare to be vulnerable, okay? And they're people of influence in the workplace. Okay? And they've all been scared the night before. They've agreed. I walked them through, and we've had a chat, and I've kept in touch with them until the day of, right? And most of them will tell me, that I'm driving here. I was like, woo, I want to turn around. Like, I want to go to that event and, stand up and be vulnerable. So there's this fear. And I assured them all, but they don't know for sure. They're taking my word for it. But that is going to dissipate. That is going to evaporate. That there is going to be something on the other side. That get ready, because it's good. Okay. and they're like, yeah, whatever. So they're scared. And that's been the truth, Nick. Every time afterwards, that they just there's this healing component when you're vulnerable. It's like a friggin' superpower, man. But you don't know it until you do, because that fear of what if isn't real. Let's just walk through the fire and see what happens. You will survive. You will be alive. You will not die. Maybe there's some truth to what Susan's saying. Maybe there is something really good on the other side, and there is. And the feedback that everybody gets from people reaching out to them through DMs at the event is just like, it fills the cup, man. It's like, oh my God, I did something good, because it's not about us. It's not about, when I share my story, it's not about me, and you sharing, it's not about you. It's about helping somebody else.
Yeah.
Helping somebody like Jordan.
Right.
Okay. That's what it's about. And you've done that when you walk through the fire and you think, shit, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And wow, the way you ever feel great.
Wow, fantastic.
And that's the other beautiful thing I love about it.
Oh, that's so fantastic. It's got to be so,
cool,
again, fuel for your fire, right? Just to
fuel for the fire.
Keep your passion going. Yeah. Wow.
You're going to experience it when you come.
Can't wait to see it. It's going to be awesome. All right, Susan, listen, I think I've taken up quite a bit of your time, and I've heard a lot of stuff from you.
This has been great.
Yeah, it's been so great. And I'm really looking forward to the event in October. We're going to have to go for sure. And I have a few friends of mine that are going to
bring some, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's free.
It's free, even better. There you go.
You can't let that be a barrier, man.
No excuses. Anyway, thank you so very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see what the Dare to Be Vulnerable project is going to be up to next. And I'll be watching for all the buses.
And you're going to let people know that they can check us out on daretobevulnerable.com.
Of course.
They want to learn what we're doing, and we'll try to keep the links up there as well, so people can register and come on out to one of our events.
Let's do that. And then people can find you on LinkedIn as well, right? I'll include that link as well, so that they can find you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Oh man, I wish you all success in the world, and because you're doing such good work. We need to keep.
You're part of it now, Nick. You're part of the army.
All right. Awesome.
That's so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Susan. We'll talk to you soon.